All right, so here we go. We are in period 10, English 1 Honors at East Lyon High School. We have some bound poems that we're going to be sharing to the masses today based off some quoted material that stem from Of Mice and Men. But most of our poems are not about Of Mice and Men. Some of them are. Everything's fair game. It's all awesome. We're happy to share it with you here. All right, thank you. Alexis, come on up. The floor is yours. Thank you for being our number one. Yeah, there we go. All right, here we go.
Okay, so my poem is called Don't Take It for Granted, and it's by me, obviously. So, human beings take many things for granted, such as having food on their plate, having a roof over their head, and having a bed to sleep on. It's just part of our nature. But one thing that we truly take for granted is having a dog. Now, this idea may seem not as big of a necessity as having food or a house, but hear me out. Having a strong bond with your dog is such an amazing thing, and I feel like a lot of people take that for granted. I can understand that people have other things to do than spend time with their dog, such as school or work, but you should really cherish that time, because one day your dog will no longer be with you. There will be no one to greet you at the door, no one to listen to you when no one else would, and just silence. It seems to last for a lifetime. Don't take it for granted.
So my poem is called Curiosity of a Dream. Little boy stayed silent as he was staring at the ceiling. A shot sounded in the distance, and he had a mysterious feeling. There was a snapping noise outside in the gloom. He gasped in terror, then silence fell in the room. Little boy stood up and walked out the door. As he stepped outside, he heard a gnawing sound. It seemed as if it was coming from the ground. He was terrified until he woke up and realized it was a dream. His heartbeat was fast, but it began to slow down.
Okay, so my poem's called Doggy Heaven by Mauricio Hernandez. Okay. Sweet dreams, sweet, generous, and inviting. No care in the world except for those around. Always seeking for one's love and attention. Never gave it to you, my mistake. It came unexpected, much like a car collision. What did she do to deserve this? Silence fell in the room as I saw you take your last breath on this planet. No more barks, no more tail wags, just silence. I lay silent as I stare at the ceiling, thinking about my selfishness. May you run in the greenest of fields, roll underneath the lilac skies, and most of all know that I love you.
All right, so we're going to start with Spencer here, and we're going to work our way counterclockwise. If you don't have a poem, then just make sure you let the person sitting next to you know. That way we can move on to the next person. Spencer, you're up, man. Make sure when you guys read the title of your poem or tell us it's untitled, make sure that you guys say your first name and your last name on the camera too. Okay?
My poem is called Silence by Spencer Messina. Silence is an interesting thing. It can come into a room from the outside where people lay silent and stare. It can be broken by a snapping noise or a shot sounding in the distance. And it can come after footsteps die away or a voice trails off. Silence is an interesting thing.
Okay, the name of my poem is The One Place by Viktor Mirskiy. It was Saturday night, and it was the second game, where we would claim our victory. The silence came onto the field, and the silence lasted until game time started, and all-out chaos broke out of cheering. The star player was taken down, and we frowned upon the referee on the disservice we were given. It was at that moment that we realized we were at a disadvantage. Soon our victory would turn into a defeat. A minute passed and another minute, counting down to our loss. At last it was the end. Footsteps died away, and everyone was on their way to the one place where they could cope with the injustice, home.
What's my name? My name's Salali Morales. Love is painful. Attachment is the worst. The moment their footsteps died away, you lay silent and said nothing. being calm at the moment, but when night comes and you stare at the ceiling, only memories and realization of how alone you are remain. And that's when you conclude love is painful.
Silence in the Speech by Kaylin Raina. When you unintentionally pause your speech, not only does silence fall in the room, but you get to hear your own voice trail off. Now, does this silence speak louder than your speech? What does the audience learn from this silence? Even the silence outside of the room is audible. Remember, silence can speak louder than words. Words are truly powerful when speaking over this silence. Your words are able to truly connect with someone, but what would silence be able to do?
My poem is called In Loving Memory. It's by Kaylin Raina, and credits to Mauricio to help me for the idea. It was silent outside. It felt like the whole world stopped spinning. It seemed like an ordinary Saturday. Little did I know nothing would be the same. He laid there limp, hopeless, and tired. I ran to my uncle only to see my worst nightmare come to life. It is true. His tears down his face confirms it all. He's dying. People come and go, saying their last goodbyes to him. It was time to go. We got there and it was time for us to say our final goodbyes. We cried and shared our favorite moments. Finally, the time has come. Voices trailed off. Silence fell on the room. It was only a matter of time until he took his last breath. He laid there peacefully, forever and always.
My poem is called A Strange Encounter by Anthony Salgado. Yesterday I was eating some tacos when I heard a snapping noise. I waited to hear it again, but only silence fell into the room. I continued eating until I heard it again. It came from outside. I went out and I saw that it was coming from the tree in my backyard. I walked closer and closer and I heard a gnawing sound. I began to feel confused, when suddenly I saw a beaver was near the trunk, next to a large pile of sticks. We locked eyes. I grabbed the biggest rock near me. I turned back around. The beaver was gone. Into the river it swam. I stared until it left, and it disappeared into the night.
My poem is called Lions. They roam freely, taunting everyone near, hunting in packs, united as one, silent but deadly, intelligent but devious, do nothing but sleep, isolated in their own paradise, until man come and take it all away.
Hi, I'm Roger Sewell, and before I start my poem, I'd just like to thank Mr. Shuitt for organizing this whole poetry slam. Alright, my poem's called Long After We're Gone. Like a shot, sound in the distance, traveling with speed and power, invades your restless imagination. The gnawing sound that makes you wonder. The snapping noise that pains you, just as would a streak of thunder. Long after we've come and gone, silence will be here forever. Thank you.
This is called Unspoken by Bella Salenzi, and I'd like to shout this out to all of those whose lives have been taken innocently. Silent. That's all it is right now. Everything is a blur, but I snap back to the moment. I see him lying there, silent. That's all I hear at this moment. Or don't. Nothing. I imagine what it was like just moments ago, when the silence was instead shots sounding in the distance. I don't even remember running to his side. The last thing this stranger that I suddenly have seemed to know my entire life says, make this known. I'll never graduate. I'll never see my parents again. I'll never get married or have a family. All because I was walking with my hood on and I looked suspicious to an officer with milky white skin that knew nothing about me. Because I have more melanin than a night sky and the world wishes. Please. He chokes us out. His eyes are staring up at the ceiling of a tiny speck of a rock in this wondrous universe, and that's when I know. I close his eyes like blinds one time of morning and give him his last peaceful sleep. A single tear falls down my cheek. It is now as it was once before, silent.
I don't have a title for this poem, but it is written by me, Thomas Trafficani. Alone. The room lay silent, silent outside, silent everywhere. I stare at the ceiling wondering, why am I still here? I shut my eyes, and I see her, but nobody's there. She's gone.
My poem is called Game Day by Alex Vargas. There he was, first one at the game. He stood there, admiring the field, taken by himself. His mind flowing with all of the memories from the previous season that he's been. Remembering how hard they had worked to get here. He ran to the middle of the field, smiling bigger than ever. It's game day and no other day is more important to him. The crowd is cheering and waiting for the teams to get ready. The teams take the field. The game has started.
This is a poem made by me, Amanda Weinberg. I don't have a title for it. The night was crisp and cold. It was odd. The creatures of the night lay silent. The silvery shine of its fur was bold, though it was stained red from a creature so violent. Its eye was pecked and torn. Its body lay cold and dying. As a gnawing sound squeaked its last breath, the wide-eyed owl crushed its small body. It was a fast and painless death.
Hunted by Paul Bajor. It was silent outside, as if you were all alone, the type of quiet that gives you the chills. A large shadow came out of the night. Igor heard a snapping sound and was frightened. He began to run for his life, heart beating like the final stretch in a race. A shot sounded in the distance, and everything was silent once again. Igor laid silent near a puddle, blood streaming into it.
My poem doesn't have a title. It's by Ada Kendich. As I tried to speak, my voice trailed off. Silence filled the room. Thoughts of what I wanted to say raced in my mind, but they wouldn't come out. All these words, but I lay silent.
My poem's titled Of Mice and Men in 11 Lines by Camille Chichura. George and Lenny, big and small. One is smart, one's not at all. The whole town of Weed wanted to get him, cause Lenny just wanted to pet him. See, they thought they were safe, until Lenny got socked in the face. By Curly, a short manly disgrace. Even though Curly was a married couple, Lenny turned his hand into rubble. He never wanted no trouble.
My poem is called Silently Making Mac and Cheese. It is by me, Nico DeBellis. Okay. It was silent outside as Joe slipped outside to make his macaroni and cheese. He took his Kraft box of macaroni from the front porch when Joe heard a gnawing sound. He heard it coming from the west, about 300 meters away, so he decided to track it down. When he tracked down the source, he was terrified to see Hillary Clinton deleting her emails and eating Nutter Butters. Joe laid silent in the grass when Hillary smelt the box of macaroni and cheese. Hillary started to walk towards Joe when Donald Trump appeared out of his Trumpocopter. As Hillary moved toward Joe, Donald Trump quickly built a wall around Hillary. Joe has now been saved and can peacefully make his macaroni.
Okay, my poem is called Silent by Alexis Karen. Oh gosh. Okay. Everywhere she goes, it's always the same. It's always her emotions, impossible to tame. Smile for the people who don't even know her name. For if she showed emotions, she'd be put to shame. Only in her lonesome can she show her true pain. Silence be her damnation, indifference be her name. Keeping from expression to avoid unwanted fame. Out of the night, pure silence makes its name. To her, it's the most gnawing sound, while it may sound insane. A minute passes and another minute while darkness takes its reign, and the girl who once was is now not the same. However, not every hour spent alone is quite spent the same. Sometimes she jumps around, sometimes she plays a game. For every day is not a foul one, even when it rains.
I'm Jacob Fredrickson, and this is called Within a Week. Laboring through work, one event to another, finding an empty spot in my schedule. My first break in a while, starts thinking when silence fell on the room, and the couch starts to cave in. The picture on the wall just stared at is now a blank white. Mom going to the kitchen for dishes, but all footsteps died away. Each voice trailed off. Snap of a finger, and I'm gone to a concert.
This poem is called Curlies Dog by Jacob Pages. George shuffled the cards noisily, shot in the distance, came out of the night. The men looked quickly at the old man. Footsteps died away. Voice trailed off. Silence outside. The silence came into the room. A minute passed, and another minute.
Childish Fears by Lorena Dinella. You lay silent on your bed as you stare at the ceiling, and you still have had no luck falling asleep. Suddenly you hear a gnawing sound, coming from an unknown source. Too afraid to move, too afraid to think, you close your eyes and wait. The noise stops and you exhale. After a few minutes, you hear a snapping sound. You are now angry. You had just managed to fall asleep before you were woken. You stand up angrily in search of the source of the noises, not long until you realize that it is only an episode of Scooby-Doo playing on the TV in the living room.
Hi, my name is Nayeli Gutierrez, and this is called Deadly Silence. As he rippled the edge of the deck nervously, George and the men decided to play cards, making the silence in the room feel deadly. A minute passed and another minute when a noise was heard in the distance. Boom! 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 Their voices trailed off, making their imaginations run wild for what came out of the night.
I'm William Lawson, and this poem doesn't have a title. I lay silent in bed, trying to think of something to write. Someone passed by my room, and soon the footsteps died away. Then silence came into my room again. I waited and waited, but nothing came to me. I continued to stare at the ceiling of my room until something came to me. Then I knew what I could write. I could write about this.
I'm Danielle Mata, and this poem is called Doubts. Laying silent, all I can think about is you. Every thought that crosses my mind, a worry, a fear, a fright.
The emptiness comes out of the night. It surrounds. I feel alone. You drift away. I want to pull you in closer, but I'm slipping, losing a grasp I once thought firm. Afraid to feel, you distance yourself. Your voice trails off in my mind as I replay our conversations. You act so strong. How can your confidence be fake? How can it all just be a mask? How can it all just be artificial? It's hard to imagine, to realize this is all just a lie. You smile through the pain, but you don't fool me this time. Your eyes tell a different story. I know you're frail inside, beneath all this crippled. It's okay, you can fall apart. I'll hold you together.
My poem is called Through His Eyes by Curlies Dog. His voice trailed off as he gazed far off. It was silent outside, and his wandering mind had no cure of any kind. When it came to her, there was no one he would rather prefer. She drew the eyes of all the men. They all saw her as a perfect 10. Yet she was just seen for her heavenly body. Without it, they thought she would be a nobody. But that was not true, both him and her knew. For he was her king, and she was his queen. He saw her beauty within. Their journey was about to begin.
All right, did we get everyone? Miss anybody? All right, nice job. Give yourself a round of applause, guys. All right, so what I'll do is